Why is it important for state and government actors, not-for-profit organizations, and others in the space to be diverse? Let me just simply answer that question. It's the only way to ensure that all communities are reflected in the work of the offices. If we're not at the table, then we're not, frankly, on the agenda. And there is no question that environmental justice issues are directly linked to ignorance, racism, apathy, greed, and yes, hate. So the question before all of you, whether you've been a practicing lawyer for years or you're just a 1L, what are you going to do about it? And how can you have the greatest impact?
Just before I get to the panel and hear about people who are in the arena and doing the work, I just want to set the context for a second of really how Green 2.0 helped to elevate this issue. In 2014, Dr. Taylor and Green 2.0 issued their report on the lack of diversity in environmental organizations, really highlighting how NGOs, foundations, and government really do not have diversity, especially at the decision-making level. The leaders of the organization, the boards of the organization, and the management, the higher management levels in government. And what you've seen across the movement and what you'll hear about today from our great panelists is the changes that have happened, the policies, the partnerships between some of the NGOs and the leading environmental justice groups and climate justice groups.
If agencies don't diversify, they are effectively ignoring a huge segment of the population that is battling the impacts of environmental pollution and degradation. We have to engage communities of color to be effective in our policymaking, and it starts with hiring and inclusion practices. We need to give future lawyers of color an opportunity and a pathway to these careers.
I think working in government, you have a seat at the table, right? To talk to policymakers, to ask the questions, to understand why decisions are being made, to raise the red flags. And this idea of being inclusive of everyone's opinions, regardless of hierarchy or structure, is something that we really value. You know, as part of our work, we're in a position to speak for the city. And we really make strides to make space for all of our colleagues' perspectives.
We know that in our space, in the energy and environment space, we need to be even more creative, and we need to take some very proactive steps to bring diversity, and especially in the public interest sector, and government included. So we really do need to break down some of the barriers. We need to have flexibility. We need to have humility. But I hope we are just getting started on this work.
We're having discussions on how to be anti-racist and how to be diverse and inclusive now at the staff level, within individual offices, as well as with our management teams. We're building on those efforts that have been going on in various organizations, and we we want to elevate that and coordinate that and prioritize it to ensure that these efforts are, that there's accountability and that there's actual sustainability.
I have the honor of being the very first Chief Diversity and Inclusion Officer because Attorney General James created the office, and she wanted to have an impact on the office and really make diversity, equity, and inclusion part of our DNA, not only for the internal benefits to the organization, but to impact on how we view our work so that we do our work serving the community through the lens of diversity, equity, and inclusion. We're also doing more with recruitment and hiring, looking at what tools can we use to enhance the diversity in our hiring. Looking at hiring, especially when you're talking about special practice areas, as not just who has X number of years experience as an environmental lawyer, but who holistically has the skills necessary so that they can learn to be an outstanding environmental lawyer. That's what you can do in government. You have an opportunity to impact at the ground level what is happening.
So, future leaders, I call on you to please leave the comfortable seat of the stadium, get on the playing field, work for justice, and work for those who can't fight for themselves. Thank you.